The galaxy had long forgotten Earth. To most alien races, it was nothing more than a broken world, a silent rock floating around a dying star, stripped of power and hope. For centuries, rumors had spread that humanity was extinct, wiped out during the great wars that reshaped the spiral arms. Traders and conquerors alike laughed at the idea of humans returning. They believed the planet was weak, undefended, and abandoned. And so, when the alien fleet first approached Earth's orbit, they came without fear. Their commanders sat in their silver warships, watching the blue planet with arrogance, calling it a ghost world, a place where no challenge could rise against them. On Earth itself, the truth was harsher. Cities remained, but they were quiet, hidden under layers of fear. People lived in underground shelters, avoiding the gaze of alien patrols that sometimes passed across the sky. Entire generations had grown up believing they were the last humans left, clinging to myths and old stories about the time when Earth had fleets of its own, when human voices filled the stars. But that was long ago. Now, silence ruled the surface. Radios gave no signal. Skies held no ships. The only sound was the wind moving across empty towers and broken streets. In the heart of the capital, a boy stood on the roof of a ruined building, staring upward as the night sky shimmered with unfamiliar constellations. He whispered to himself about the stars, about what lay beyond them, about whether his people were truly alone. He did not know that far above him, deep in the void between planets, something ancient was stirring. The alien fleet moved confidently toward orbit, scanning the planet for resistance. Their systems reported nothing. No weapons, no signals, no defenses. To them, Earth was a ripe fruit waiting to be crushed. One officer laughed and declared the humans nothing more than insects, too weak to ever matter. But then, the scanners caught something strange. It was faint, buried under layers of interference, but it was there, a pulse. A signal, steady and powerful, echoing from the far edges of the system. The alien commander frowned. This was not possible. Earth's technology had been destroyed long ago. Yet the readings were clear, massive energy sources hidden beyond the orbit of Saturn. At first, they believed it was a trick, perhaps old wreckage sending out phantom signals. But the pulse grew stronger. The readings spiked so high that entire screens lit up red with warnings. An uneasy silence filled the alien bridge. No one laughed now. The commander ordered 3 scout ships to break formation and investigate. They moved swiftly, cutting across the black sea of stars, their engines glowing white against the darkness. As they entered Saturn's rings, the scouts reported nothing unusual. Just rocks, dust, and shadows. The fleet began to relax. Perhaps it was nothing after all. But then, one of the scouts reported movement. A massive shadow among the ice and stone, larger than any asteroid, darker than the void itself. The pilot tried to adjust sensors, but his voice cracked with fear. "It's not a rock," he whispered. "It's something else." For a heartbeat, the transmission cut. Then the cameras lit up, showing the outline of a colossal structure hidden within the rings. It was metal, not stone. Its surface gleamed with scars of old battles, its design unlike anything the aliens had seen. At first, they thought it was a derelict ship, abandoned and forgotten. But the shadow moved. Slowly, with the weight of centuries, the structure began to shift. Panels unfolded like wings. Massive engines cracked the silence with a low hum that vibrated through space itself. The alien fleet watched in frozen horror as the giant form revealed itself, a dreadnought, larger than their own capital ships, built with technology they believed had been lost forever. The scout pilots screamed into their comms as more shadows stirred in the rings. 1 became 2, then 5, then 10. One by one, massive warships emerged, their armored hulls glinting with the cold light of Saturn. Each ship carried markings, ancient human symbols burned into steel. They had been waiting, hidden for centuries, silent guardians sleeping until the time came to awaken. And now, they were awake. On Earth, underground shelters trembled as old systems activated. Children covered their ears as alarms blared through long-forgotten speakers. Generators deep beneath mountains roared back to life, sending power surging through cables that had not carried current in generations. Across the planet, the people lifted their heads as if feeling something they could not explain. Hope. The boy on the rooftop stared upward in shock as streaks of light cut across the night sky. They were not meteors. They were engines, giant war machines rising into orbit, answering a call no one had heard in centuries. The aliens panicked, sending urgent messages back to their command. But it was too late. The dreadnoughts had awakened. The silence of Earth was broken, and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity had not been destroyed. It had been waiting, watching, preparing. And now, the storm was coming. The alien scouts drifted nervously through the rings of Saturn, their hulls cutting through clouds of icy dust. At first, all they saw were shadows. Then the shadows moved. The first dreadnought rose from the darkness like a mountain tearing itself free from the planet's gravity. Its hull was vast, covered in thick plates of blackened steel, scarred with ancient battles but still unbroken. Strange symbols glowed faintly across its surface, human markings long thought to be myths. The alien pilots gasped in disbelief. Their sensors screamed with warnings, yet the ship itself made no sound. It simply awakened, engines igniting with a deep red glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. Then another dreadnought stirred, and another. The icy rings around Saturn shattered as massive ships emerged, hidden for centuries under stealth fields and frozen camouflage. 10, 20, 30. More dreadnoughts than the alien fleet had thought possible, and still the shadows kept moving. The alien commander on the flagship froze as his monitors filled with red indicators. He had come expecting ruins, a dead planet ripe for conquest, but what he saw now was impossible. Humanity was supposed to be extinct. Their fleets were destroyed long ago. Yet here, above Saturn, a sleeping armada was rising, and their weapons were already locking on to his ships. Panic spread across the alien bridge. Officers shouted over one another, their voices sharp with fear. "It's impossible. The humans are gone," one screamed. "Then what are those?" The commander barked, his cold eyes locked on the dreadnoughts. The massive warships moved with terrifying precision, ancient engines roaring like thunder. Their formation was flawless, their targeting systems unerring. These were not broken relics, they were guardians, waiting in silence for the right moment to return. The alien commander slammed his clawed hand on the console and gave the order to retreat. The scouts turned first, engines flaring as they tried to escape Saturn's pull. But it was too late. The first dreadnought fired. From its side erupted a beam of pure energy, bright as a newborn star. It cut across the void with impossible speed, slicing through the first scout ship as if it were paper. There was no explosion, only silence and drifting ash. The second scout panicked and fired its weapons wildly, bolts of plasma scattering uselessly across the dreadnought's armored hull. The dreadnought did not flinch. Another beam lanced out, and the scout was gone. The third tried to run, engines at full burn, its captain screaming across the comms for help. The alien flagship received the transmission for only a moment before it ended in static. A dreadnought's missile streaked through space and turned the fleeing ship into fire. On Earth, people looked to the skies and saw faint flashes above the atmosphere. At first, they thought they were stars. Then the flashes grew brighter, until even the most frightened civilians realized something incredible was happening. "They're fighting back," someone whispered in the shelters. "The sky is burning, and it's not us. It's them." The alien commander cursed and ordered his fleet to regroup. Hundreds of ships turned into formation, their weapons charging, shields blazing bright. "Crush them," he shouted. "Crush whatever they are." But the dreadnoughts were not intimidated. They drifted forward in silence, their enormous hulls glowing with power. One by one, their weapons came to life. Beams, cannons, and missiles that had slept for centuries now filled the void with deadly light. The first volley came like a storm. Entire alien cruisers vanished in bursts of fire. Their shields, designed to resist modern enemies, shattered against weapons older and more powerful than anything in their arsenal. The alien formation broke within minutes. Ships collided, spinning out of control, their commanders screaming for escape. But escape was impossible. The dreadnoughts had already surrounded them, cutting off retreat. On the ground, old communication networks flickered to life. Screens lit up in dusty bunkers as feeds from the battle filled the air. For the first time in generations, humanity saw its guardians again. Engineers who had worked in secret wept. Children pointed at the skies, their fear replaced with wonder. The boy on the rooftop leaned forward with wide eyes, whispering to himself, "They're ours. They're ours." But even as hope spread, the battle was far from won. The alien commander, filled with rage and desperation, activated his final protocol. His ship began to glow as massive energy reactors overloaded, turning his vessel into a living bomb. He snarled into his comms, vowing to take the humans with him. The Dreadnoughts sensed the rising danger, their scanners screaming warnings. The lead Dreadnought surged forward, placing itself between the alien flagship and Earth's vulnerable atmosphere. For a moment, the void burned brighter than day as the alien ship detonated, sending a wave of destruction across the system. Shields cracked, rings of Saturn shattered into streams of glowing debris. Silence followed, heavy and endless. Then the smoke cleared. The alien flagship was gone. The Dreadnought still stood, its armor scorched but unbroken. Slowly, it turned its massive guns back toward the surviving alien fleet. The aliens froze. Every weapon in the Dreadnought armada locked on them. The humans had spoken without words. Earth was not weak. Earth was not defenseless. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never forget it. The news of the battle at Saturn traveled faster than light. Across the alien fleet, officers who had once mocked Earth now trembled as reports poured in. Entire squadrons lost, dreadnoughts rising like ghosts of war, weapons that should not exist still burning with impossible strength. Some alien ships tried to flee, hoping to escape before the human armada closed in. Others froze, unwilling to believe what they had witnessed. But denial could not save them. The Dreadnought fleet advanced slowly, engines glowing with the fury of a forgotten age, each vessel a titan of steel. Their formation was flawless, their purpose absolute. They were not hunting. They were reclaiming. On Earth, the signals reached hidden bunkers deep beneath mountains, and old command centers flickered back to life. Screens that had been black for centuries glowed with blue light. Maps updated. Satellite feeds reconnected. For the first time since the fall, humanity's defense network breathed again. In a control room buried under a desert, men and women stared at consoles they had been trained to monitor their entire lives, never truly believing they would activate. Now alarms filled the air. Fleet awaken sequence complete, one officer whispered, tears in her eyes. They are here. They're really here. Around her, veterans who had waited decades stood straighter, saluting unseen captains. Across the planet, ordinary people began to emerge from the shadows. Farmers in ruined valleys, miners in deep shafts, children in underground schools, all of them looked up as the sky flickered with the fire of distant war. Hope, fragile but real, spread like wildfire. The galaxy beyond Earth, however, was not silent. Outposts on nearby colonies caught glimpses of the battle, and the images spread through smuggler channels and black market relays. Within hours, entire star systems knew humanity had not died. It had hidden, waiting for the right moment to strike. Fear swept across alien governments. Some called for immediate retaliation, warning that if the dreadnoughts had survived, then the human fleets might return as well. Others argued for caution, terrified of provoking a race that had built weapons able to shatter fleets in minutes. Traders whispered in dark corners that Earth had always been a trap, that the stories of its weakness were lies spread by humans themselves to lure the galaxy into arrogance. The truth was stranger still. For centuries, humanity had been silent, yes, but silence did not mean surrender. The dreadnoughts had not been abandoned. They had been placed in hiding, guardians sleeping beneath rings and moons, their reactors pulsing quietly until the day came to rise again. That day had come. In orbit near Saturn, the surviving alien ships regrouped, their commander dead, their flagship destroyed. They knew retreat was their only chance, but the dreadnoughts had already surrounded them. A voice crackled across open comms, the first human voice the galaxy had heard in centuries. It was deep, calm, and steady, carrying the weight of 1,000 battles. This is Admiral Kalen of the Terran Dreadnought fleet. You entered our skies uninvited. You will not leave the same way. The aliens froze. Their translators struggled, but the message was clear. Humanity was not only alive, they were organized, disciplined, and ready to fight. Some of the alien captains begged for mercy, sending desperate transmissions of surrender. Others, too proud, powered their weapons and prepared to die in battle. Admiral Kalen gave no speeches, no threats. He simply raised his hand, and the dreadnoughts fired. The void lit up with fire. Alien cruisers cracked apart, spinning into fragments. Fighters swarmed and were erased in bursts of light. One by one, the fleet was reduced to wreckage, their arrogance burned away in the silence of space. Yet Kalen was not reckless. He ordered his ships to leave survivors. A single alien vessel was spared, engines disabled but hull intact. Its captain, trembling, watched as the dreadnoughts turned away, ignoring him. He understood the message. They wanted him to live. They wanted him to carry the story. On Earth, cheers erupted in shelters as images of the battle streamed in. For the first time, children saw dreadnoughts painted with human emblems and whispered about the day they might see the stars themselves. Elders wept, remembering the fleets of old, believing they would never return. The boy on the rooftop, still staring at the sky, clenched his fists with determination. "They're not gone," he whispered to the wind. "We're not gone." But the battle at Saturn was only the beginning. In the deepest corners of the galaxy, ancient enemies stirred. Empires that had once fought humanity now saw the danger of their return. Some plotted to crush the humans before they could rise again. Others shivered, recalling wars they had barely survived last time. The galaxy was vast, and the dreadnoughts, powerful as they were, could not remain hidden forever. In the silence of his command chamber, Admiral Kalen studied star maps that had not been updated in centuries. The galaxy had changed. Borders shifted. Powers rose and fell. But he knew one truth remained: humanity was not meant to kneel. Humanity was meant to rise. He spoke softly, his words echoing through the decks of the great ships. "For too long, they believed us dead. Now they will remember who we are." His crew answered with a roar that shook the halls of steel. Engines flared to life. The dreadnought fleet began to move, not to hide again, but to march forward. In the cold darkness of space, humanity's silence had ended. And the galaxy was about to tremble. In the far reaches of the galaxy, panic spread like wildfire. Governments that once mocked the fall of Earth now gathered in secret chambers, their voices sharp with fear. The war councils of the Dravok, the Vaya Dominion, and the Syndicate of Stars each received the same reports. Massive human dreadnoughts had risen near Saturn, annihilating fleets that were supposed to be untouchable. These ships were not broken relics, not derelicts left adrift. They were alive, functional, and commanded by officers who carried the discipline of an army thought long gone. Across the stars, leaders argued. Some demanded immediate retaliation, calling for a united strike to crush humanity before the legend grew. Others counseled patience, terrified that another reckless move might expose their fleets to destruction. Yet even as they debated, one truth cut through every council chamber. If humanity had survived in silence, what else had they hidden? Admiral Kalen knew these discussions were happening. His dreadnought, Eternal Resolve, sat in orbit above Earth, engines glowing faintly as if listening to the heartbeat of the planet below. Across his bridge, officers worked tirelessly to restore ancient systems that had slept for centuries. Many of them were descendants of those who had sworn oaths long ago, raised in bunkers and hidden cities, trained from childhood to keep the secret of humanity's survival. They had never seen the galaxy beyond the solar system. Now, for the first time, their eyes turned outward with a mixture of awe and determination. "The galaxy will come," Kalen said quietly, his voice heavy but steady. "They will gather against us. They cannot afford to let us rise again." On Earth, life began to change. In underground schools, teachers who had once taught only survival now spoke of stars and ships. In broken cities, people cleared rubble to reveal hidden doors leading to long-forgotten armories. Families who had known only silence began to whisper about what they might build again. The boy on the rooftop who had seen the flashes above Saturn stood in a crowd as news spread through battered streets. Old screens showed the dreadnoughts, their massive hulls gleaming with human symbols. For the first time in his life, he felt not fear but pride. He clenched his fists and swore he would join them someday. But the galaxy was not idle. In the cold halls of the Dravok Council, warlords pounded their fists on obsidian tables. If the humans rise, they will not stop at defense. They will come for revenge, one snarled, his voice like gravel. In the Syndicate of Stars, spies whispered that the dreadnoughts carried weapons older than their empires, weapons capable of burning entire fleets in minutes. The Vaya Dominion, more cautious, sent emissaries to seek information. They wanted to know how much of humanity's strength had truly survived. To them, the dreadnoughts were not just war machines. They were a symbol. Symbols could ignite revolutions. And indeed, in colonies enslaved by alien rulers, whispers began to spread. If humanity had survived extinction, perhaps others could resist as well. Miners on distant moons shared stolen images of the battle near Saturn. Rebels on forgotten worlds painted the human symbol on walls, declaring that if Earth could rise, so could they. The legend was growing, whether the galaxy liked it or not. Admiral Kalen understood the power of symbols. That was why he had spared the alien survivor, letting him escape with the story. Fear was a weapon, and humanity would wield it as carefully as any cannon. But as his fleet repaired and prepared, Kalen also knew symbols alone would not be enough. The enemy would come with overwhelming force. Dreadnoughts, powerful as they were, could not stand alone against the combined might of empires. Humanity needed more, new ships, new allies, and new courage. On the edge of the solar system, scouts reported unusual movements. Alien ships were gathering at staging points, their numbers growing daily. The war councils had decided. They would unite. Not out of friendship, not out of trust, but out of fear. Their fleets, rival for centuries, were now being forged into a single weapon aimed directly at Earth. Their goal was clear: finish what history had started, wipe out humanity for good, and destroy the legend before it spread. In the depths of his command chamber, Kalen stood before a map of the stars. Red markers lit up, showing where alien fleets were converging. The enemy was not hiding. They wanted to strike hard, strike fast, and leave nothing behind. He traced the lines of movement with a gloved finger, his jaw tightening. "They will come soon," he said. His officers nodded, grim but unafraid. "Then let them come," one whispered. "We have been waiting too long to run." Still, Kalen was no fool. He knew humanity could not win with brute force alone. Their numbers were too few, their resources too scarce. So he gave a new order: awaken the sleepers. Across hidden bunkers, signals were sent. Subterranean vaults opened, revealing factories that had waited in silence for centuries. Deep in asteroid fields, hangars cracked apart to release smaller fleets that had been buried in rock and shadow. Humanity was not only awakening dreadnoughts. It was awakening an entire network of defenses hidden in every corner of its system. But even this might not be enough. As Kalen stared at the star map, he knew humanity stood at the edge of its greatest trial. If they won, the galaxy would never again doubt their strength. If they lost, there would be no second chance. Above him, the dreadnoughts glowed in orbit, silent giants preparing for war. Below, Earth's people whispered hope into the night. And far beyond, the enemy gathered, their combined fleets a storm ready to break. The silence was ending. The galaxy was holding its breath. And when the storm came, only one truth would matter: was humanity's return a spark of hope, or the beginning of fire that would consume them all? The warning came before dawn. Deep under Earth's deserts, alarms screamed as tracking systems lit up with hundreds of red signatures flooding into the solar system. The enemy had gathered: Dravok warships, Syndicate destroyers, Vaya Dominion cruisers, and dozens of other banners that had never flown side by side before. Now, united by fear, they came as a single armada. Their numbers filled the void like a swarm of locusts, blotting out the stars. Humanity had expected this. Humanity had been waiting. On the surface, cities that had lived in silence stirred awake. Screens in bunkers and old command rooms flared to life. Families gathered around, their eyes wide as the images came in. Children pointed in or at the endless rows of alien ships, their faces pale with fear, but in their hearts a strange pride glimmered. They had always been told humanity was weak, finished, extinct. But if the galaxy feared them enough to send this much firepower, then maybe, just maybe, Earth was more powerful than they had ever dreamed. Above the planet, Admiral Kalen stood on the bridge of the Eternal Resolve. The dreadnoughts hung in formation, engines glowing, silent giants awaiting their orders. He did not pace, did not show fear. His officers watched him closely, drawing strength from his stillness. At last, he spoke. "The enemy has come together as one," he said, his voice low but steady. "That means they are afraid. Fear makes even the strongest alliances fragile. Today, we remind them why they were right to fear us." Across the fleet, crews straightened, eyes shining with determination. The dreadnoughts powered their weapons, and the void hummed with energy. The alien armada moved first. Waves of fighters poured out from carriers, a storm of steel and fire, rushing toward Earth's defenses. Behind them, heavy cruisers charged their weapons, ready to burn through the human ships with sheer numbers. From the Dravok flagships, commanders barked orders, certain their overwhelming force would crush the humans in a single strike. "End them before the legend spreads," one snarled. "No survivors. No mercy." But humanity had not been idle. As the alien swarms approached, the hidden defenses of the solar system awakened. From beneath the frozen crust of Europa, silos opened and released sleek interceptor drones that streaked through the darkness, cutting into enemy formations with impossible speed. From within the asteroid belt, long slumbering cannons emerged, firing beams of energy that pierced alien cruisers before they realized the trap. Even Mars, scarred and broken from ancient wars, revealed its secret. Automated railguns buried under red sand thundered to life, unleashing fire that tore through the first wave. The galaxy had believed Earth was defenseless. They had been wrong. On the bridge of eternal resolve, Kalen raised his hand. "Hold formation," he ordered calmly, even as alien fire lit up the void. The dreadnoughts remained still, unmoving titans letting the hidden defenses strike first. The enemy pressed harder, sending more ships into the fight, determined to break through. And then, at the perfect moment, Kalen dropped his hand. "Now," he said. The dreadnought fleet roared to life. Beams of energy lit the void like sunrise. Alien ships that had pressed forward with arrogance were split apart in an instant, their wreckage drifting silently. Dreadnought cannons unleashed salvos that cracked through shields designed to withstand entire wars. The void became a storm of fire and steel, human power meeting alien arrogance head-on. Yet the aliens fought desperately, their sheer numbers overwhelming even humanity's defenses. A Syndicate destroyer rammed into a human outpost near Titan, tearing it apart in a ball of fire. Veya cruisers broke through a defense line, hammering the shields of a dreadnought until its hull cracked. For every alien ship destroyed, 3 more seemed to take its place. On Earth, people watched the battle play out in the skies above, projected onto massive screens. They saw their dreadnoughts burn bright, saw alien ships fall, and though fear gripped them, they refused to look away. Children clutched their parents, whispering that the humans would win. Elders who remembered the old wars wept openly, seeing once again the fire of Earth's fleets. Humanity had always been underestimated. Tonight, they would prove the galaxy wrong or die trying. The turning point came when the alien armada pushed close to Earth's orbit. Their plan was clear: overwhelm the dreadnoughts, land troops on the planet, and crush humanity at its heart. But Kalen had prepared for this. As the enemy drew close, signals pulsed from Earth's surface. The skies above the planet shimmered, and then lit with fire as long-hidden orbital cannons rose from camouflaged silos. Beams of plasma cut through alien carriers, slicing them apart like paper. Shields collapsed under the sudden assault. The alien commanders panicked. They had expected human ships, but they had never imagined Earth itself was a fortress. Kalen seized the moment. "Break them," he commanded. The dreadnoughts surged forward, cutting through the alien lines with merciless precision. Enemy ships tried to scatter, but their alliance faltered. Old rivalries resurfaced in the chaos. Dravok captains refused to cover Syndicate vessels, Syndicate destroyers abandoned Veya cruisers to save themselves. What had come as a united armada was breaking into fragments, undone by their own fear. Hours passed, and the void burned. When the smoke cleared, the solar system was littered with wreckage. Alien ships, once countless, now floated shattered and broken. Some managed to escape, engines limping, fleeing back into the galaxy with stories of terror. Humanity had not only survived, they had destroyed an armada meant to end them forever. On the bridge of eternal resolve, Kalen stood silently, watching the last alien ships retreat. His crew erupted into cheers, but he raised a hand for silence. His voice was quiet, heavy with meaning. "This was only the first strike," he said. "The galaxy will not forget this defeat. They will come again, stronger, and they will not stop until Earth is ashes. We must be ready." On Earth, crowds filled the streets for the first time in centuries. People lit fires on mountaintops, raised old flags, and shouted into the night. Humanity had spoken, not in words, but in battle. And the galaxy had heard. Somewhere, far beyond the stars, leaders and warlords would soon meet again, their fear sharper than ever. But for now, Earth stood proud. The silence of centuries was broken. And in that silence, a legend was reborn. In the days after the Great Battle, the wreckage of alien ships still drifted in Earth's orbit, glowing faintly as sunlight struck twisted metal. To the people below, those broken hulks were proof of survival, proof that humanity was no longer the prey of the galaxy but a force that could defend itself. Celebrations erupted in hidden towns and cities, songs rising into the night for the first time in generations. Yet, deep in the command chambers of the Dreadnought fleet, there was no celebration. Admiral Kalen stood in silence, staring at the battle map. It glowed with the outlines of alien territories, and in those territories, red markers spread like fire. Reports had come in from intercepted transmissions. Dozens of empires, frightened and humiliated by their defeat, had gathered in secret councils. No longer were they divided by old rivalries. Humanity's return had given them something to fear more than each other. On the capital world of the Dravik Dominion, warlords thundered in the great chamber, their voices filled with fury. They should not exist, one shouted, slamming his clawed fist into the table. We ended them centuries ago. Their fleets should be dust, yet they rise again. Others roared in agreement. But among them were voices of fear, warning that if humanity had hidden their dreadnoughts, what else might they have hidden? In the syndicate halls, merchants and admirals debated in cold whispers. Some demanded that Earth be destroyed at once, before its legend spread further. Others feared that any war against humanity would bleed them dry. But in the end, pride and terror forged an agreement. The syndicate, the Dravik, the Veya, and a dozen more empires signed a pact that had never been signed before. They would create a single coalition fleet, greater than anything the galaxy had seen. Their purpose, the extermination of Earth. News of this alliance reached Kalen through hidden channels. His officers listened in grim silence as the reports came one after another. A fleet of 1,000 ships assembling near the edge of known space. Elite warriors from countless species training together. Weapons designed to break even dreadnought shields being forged in secret foundries. Humanity had struck fear into the galaxy, but now that fear had become rage. They are coming, one officer whispered. And this time, they will not underestimate us. Kalen's gaze never wavered from the map. He had known this would happen. Victory at Earth had bought them time, but not safety. Humanity had awakened a storm, and now the storm was gathering. On Earth, the mood was divided. Some rejoiced, convinced that the galaxy would never dare strike again after their defeat. But others, especially those who had fought and bled in the defense, felt the weight of what was coming. Families prepared shelters. Engineers worked day and night to repair the wounded dreadnoughts. Pilots trained endlessly in simulators, knowing that their next battle might be their last. In the streets, children pointed at the sky, asking when the dreadnoughts would fly again. Their parents answered with brave smiles, but fear lingered behind their eyes. Kalen knew Earth alone could not stand against the full might of the coalition. Humanity had been silent for centuries, and in that silence, the galaxy had grown vast and strong. They needed allies, but allies were rare. Many species had hated humanity in the old wars, and few would risk defying the coalition now. Still, there were whispers. Smugglers brought news of outcast colonies and oppressed worlds that might welcome humanity's return. Minor factions that had lived under the heel of the Dravik or Syndicate might see Earth as a beacon of resistance. Kalen called his captains together and gave them new orders: spread the fleet outward, not to conquer, but to seek. Find those who would stand with humanity before the storm arrives. Far beyond the solar system, in dark taverns on lawless moons, rumors spread like wildfire. Stories of Earth's dreadnoughts destroying fleets, of alien warlords fleeing in terror, of a human admiral whose voice carried the weight of 1,000 dead stars. Some laughed at the tales, dismissing them as myths. But others leaned closer, listening with wide eyes. For those who had long lived under alien oppression, the idea of humanity rising again was more than a rumor, it was hope. But as hope spread, so did fear. In hidden chambers, coalition spies reported back to their masters. The humans are reaching out, they warned. If they succeed, their legend will grow. More worlds will join them. Their silence is over, and their voice is dangerous. The coalition leaders agreed. They could not allow Earth to gather allies. Their fleet, already massive, was given a new name, the Purge Armada. And it was set on a single course, toward Earth. On the eternal resolve, Kalen stood before his crew. His voice was calm, but his words carried a weight that sank into every heart. "The galaxy is afraid of us," he said. "That is why they come. They believe their numbers will drown us, that their unity will break us. But they forget what it means to be human. They forget that we are forged in struggle, that we do not yield to fear. When they come, we will not run. We will meet them in the stars, and the galaxy will learn again that humanity does not kneel." The crew roared in answer, their voices echoing through the halls of the Dreadnought. Engines flared to life. The fleet began to move, spreading out into the galaxy, searching for allies, preparing for the storm. Above Earth, the stars looked calm, but every soul who gazed at them knew the truth: the greatest battle was yet to come. And when it arrived, the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy, would hang in the balance.